everybody. This is Albert Campa, and we are in episode 220, the CantinaMX podcast. I'm here with Joel on a Saturday. Cruz Azul is playing Morelia. How's it going, Joel?
Greetings, Chiquis. Yeah, enjoying the Cruz Azul game uh, and what's going on with Veracruz.
Yes. So I guess that's going to be the main points of discussion. Is going to be the whole Veracruz goings on.
It is indeed.
I guess I'll
It
give like
is,
a
and you
go,
give a what?
I'll give a like a recap of what's going on, and then you can expand, I guess, for
Yeah,
everyone. Everyone's probably already knows, but yesterday Veracruz was set to play Tigres at home. They're having problems of not getting paid, and the question was if they were going to go out and play that game. And then I guess the players union or the players association was going to unite, and but they ended up going out, and Veracruz did not play. The game started, but the Veracruz's players just stood there
no,
and did not play
Chiquis.
for.
They switched it. Chiquis,
What?
your they switched
They switched
their
their stance.
protest. Well, yeah, the original protest was like, we're not gonna show up, and then the league told the players that if they did not, they were gonna take some type of action. So there was pressure from the league. So then the players they switched that up and they said, okay, we're gonna play, but we're gonna do like a 3 minute when the game starts, we're
A
not gonna
protest. Yeah, they're going to
yeah,
protest
we're
for
not
three
gonna do
minutes.
anything for 3 minutes. Yes, yes. There we go, Chiquis. And
Okay.
then what happened?
Well, and also, like in addition to what you're saying, didn't Liga MX pay the players? They came to an agreement to pay those players a certain amount. Am I correct on that?
Well, the league is gonna be paying them some money.
Yeah.
But you know, what would make this situation even bigger was that Tigres scored 2 goals in those 3 minutes,
Oh yeah,
and
and that
so
yeah.
the whole community, the whole Liga MX community, has been attacking Tigres, and the, there's two stories come out of the Tigres camp. The first one was that told him that the protest was going to be only 1 minute long, not 3 minutes, and the second was that Tuca gave the order from the bench to play ball.
Actually,
So who knows? Who knows?
well, Guido Pizarro, he came out and said after the game that because I believe he's the Tigres captain. He told he talked with the Veracruz captain, and they discussed not playing for excuse me for 3 minutes. Pizarro said no, we're only gonna not play for 1 minute. And Veracruz just said, okay, well you do what you want. We're not gonna play for 3 minutes. And so they went out in the field, and nobody else knew. Only the Veracruz captain Pizarro said that the other players in Veracruz didn't know that only after 1 minute Tigres was going to start to play. And so it was the response. He said it was the responsibility of the Veracruz captain to let his players know that Tigres is not gonna. They didn't want to do the 3 minutes. They only wanted to do 1 minute. So a lot of the Veracruz players were surprised, and after 1 minute, apparently Tigres, started playing, and then they scored those 2 goals, pretty much cheap shot goals, while Veracruz was just standing around. So that's what Guido
And one of
Pizarro
those,
said.
yeah, and one of those goals was it was Guignac's 100th league goal. So that even added more to the controversy.
Yeah, put an asterisk on that. And then apparently the video of at first I thought that video of Gignac was an old one, but at half they had a video of him leaving the going to the locker rooms and complaining and like telling off people saying that Veracruz should go to second division. That just forget those guys. So there's like some bad blood with Gignac because everyone was complaining about them and what he did. And then, of course, after the game,
Yes.
the
Well,
Veracruz players were.
technically they should be. They should be in second division Chiquis, and we're gonna talk a little bit of why they're not, and a lot of it has to do
Ooh.
with Veracruz's owner, Fidel Curi. So probably a lot of you guys have been hearing his name, and this guy's a straight up gangster. Explaining our intro song, that one went out for Curi. He's a G. When you when you hear the stuff he's done, and not only what he's done, but what he keeps getting away with.
And with that,
Chiquis, I'm
Señor
hearing an
Lamba
echo.
Huevos.
I'm gonna introduce I guess Jaime and Ron. Ron I think might be a Cootie apologist to a certain extent.
Hey,
But welcome,
someone
I
welcome
someone
guys.
has something on. I could hear echo.
Oh, it's probably me. I'm at work. I just wanted to say what's up to you guys.
Hey man,
Hey, what's up, Jaime?
Aquí nomás.
enjoying the workday.
I think so much crazy shit happened. That's like we got you guys better talk about it, man. The Cruz thing. You got like the international break, and there's something else that was going on. Oh, Pelas and
Well,
all that shit.
well, the other, because it's a gangster episode right here, Jaime, and we did have the whole Sinaloa thing, which made
Oh
us
yeah,
Dorados Atlante game had to be suspended. It was a Copa MX game.
that's crazy.
Sinaloa was on lockdown. There was some
Except for
straight.
the except for the tamales guy, he was still selling tamales.
Oh, and there's some controversy on the goalkeeper who posted an Instagram story, sort of like making a meme out of the shootings and stuff. About the
Yeah, and then he said he was hacked.
yeah, right. Um, so Dorados might discipline that dude a little. It's all kinds of gangster stuff. But I must say that like the interview that Picante had with Fidel Curi, he didn't look like no gangster man. He had like a nervous facial twitch, and he looked like pretty sort of like sad
Yeah,
man, pretty
well, I mean,
depressed.
it's coming down on him. That's why
Hello?
he. Hey, Ron.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
Hey,
Kiwale. Well, I'm just gonna just before we bring in Ron. To me, right now, Cudi, he's like Nicky Santoro from the movie Casino.
Yeah,
He's he's Joe Pesci's character. He's losing all his money, but
I mean,
he's
obviously with Corey, I mean, we know that obviously he's a politician, and he had and obviously these had controversies, like the one that is a construction company, and apparently he
yeah.
wasn't his company wasn't fulfilling all the
They
I
left
guess all the
unfinished
requirements of
roads.
yeah, and stuff like that. Um, I mean, honestly, I think it's a little bit, over sensationalized. Some, I've heard some, reporters and stuff like that, refer to him as a gangster and this and that. And I just think that that's kind of like not, it's not, it's dishonest because I mean, obviously he hasn't been, indicted or charged of, any of that. Obviously you can make a case, about his political dealings and how perhaps he's favored his companies through his connections, through his networks and stuff like that. But until you're charged, like, hey, I said, call it what it is. But having said that, there's one thing that I've noticed with Cody that I don't notice with a lot of other ownership groups. And one of the things that I've noticed with Cody is this: when there's a scandal, he's front and center, and he deals with it head on. Sometimes he may say stupid things, sometimes stuff like that. And like for example, like last night, and and even on other occasions, he says, "Look, I don't want to speak right now because look, I'm right now, I'm not, I want to speak when I'm cooler. I want to let cool heads prevail because right now, it's like I'm pissed. I don't really want to say anything that may be taken out of context." But the guy every scandal, whatever, he's right there, front and center, trying to mitigate the disaster or the damage. That can't be said with other ownership groups, you know, um, that I've seen in the past. Even with Cruz Azul, when like for example, the stuff that's going on within the Cruz Azul, ownership group and stuff like that. That's not something that just started this year. That's been going on for a long time and stuff like that. And like, who's the owner here? Or even in Puebla, who was the ownership group between the people that were associated with Bernat and and then the newer ownership group, going to jail and stuff like that. So I I saw I was watching on Fox with what's her name, Marion Reimers or whatever, and they were interviewing the old previous owner of the Veracruz franchise. He's a vet. He's Rafael Herrerias or something like that, right? Well, Guri basically said that he was paying loans and debts that stem back 15 or 14 years. And I think that's interesting because I don't think that he would just say that out of thin air. There has to be some sort of reason, and I wouldn't put it past Liga MX, to basically do that to Guri and stuff like that. Um, because do you remember years back, Joel, with the whole debt thing with Alejandro Burillo and Grupo Pegaso and all that type of stuff.
Yes.
You know, I see similarities with that with with
They
Carl.
well, just really briefly, yeah, they owed money, and Burrillo Alejandro, he owned Atlante,
He owned
and
Atlante,
and he
and
owned up the Pegasus Training Center, which became the national
God,
team's training center right now.
exactly, and stuff like that. So it's like it's like let's not pretend that the Liga MX hasn't showed favoritism with with different ownership groups. And I don't think that Cootie's wrong in the saying that, hey, he's like the bad guy in the movie, and that there's certain people that want to see him gone, and,
Yeah,
and, and stuff and stuff like that. But it's like, I mean, is his group doing anything that, like, for example, that Grupo Pachuca or Grupo Orlegi haven't done in terms of political connections and
oh
and
no, no,
no, of course not. Now,
not
granted, he does need to get his finances in order. But I think it would be interesting to see, and I'd like to see documentation to see if what Gudi is saying about having to pay for previous debts that pertains to the previous ownership group, and stuff like that. Because I mean, that would be interesting to I mean, I think that's an interesting story and stuff like that.
I think he's
But
just highlighted and
what's that?
he has a negative light about him just because of his interactions with the press, like calling that guy from Puebla, uh, like that that he doesn't have any huevos, and and yelling at yelling at that what's that
What is that?
that ref yeah Colisar, yelling in his
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
He's
But
just
he
like
was
yeah.
fined. He was
But
fined for that, and then
hold
he
on.
was banned. And,
Even le
and
brinca,
then,
Rafael.
well, hold on, Ron. And then
Yeah.
while he was banned, he went into a stadium drunk, and he tried to assault that's what he
so he does
stuff
crazy
like that, and
stuff,
not
man.
paying
Yeah.
the players.
Well, the thing about it, things that he's done and stuff like that. It's like, okay,
Well, your audio messed up.
Yeah,
Carlos
it's cutting
Almada
off.
do stuff like that, or even worse, some. I mean, that guy's actually is an actual criminal.
Yep.
Who's
Rafael,
an actual
Carlos Almada.
criminal? Oh,
Hello.
Mada. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't hear who you said was a criminal or who you were talking about.
I think he said Carlos Ahumada.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I could hear you now.
Okay.
You were talking about Ahumada?
Yeah.
I think his issues, like he said in Picante, is just that the finances he said from 14 years earlier. Since 14 years ago, Veracruz has been in financial troubles and I guess accumulating debt that whole time. So now he's like in huge trouble. He's hasn't paid since
Yeah.
August, the
Well,
players.
I mean, this team, this is the other thing about this team is that he's been using the team for his, to push his politics. So he had threatened to move the team from Veracruz if Bree didn't win, and then they didn't, but he still left the team. And then they had some slogans in Veracruz saying Veracruz es de primera, sort of also alluding to having a team in first division. And this was going to happen last season if they didn't pay the fine. And they said that it was the government that paid it, not
Uh-huh.
Curi. And the big reason was just to keep it because it could be like a talking point of, they don't even have a team here. Like you
Yeah.
voted these people in and they can't even get you which is like a big deal over there.
Quick update: Veracruz, Cruz Azul just scored, so they're tied 2-2 with Morelia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my whole take, and I've already
But
stated it. Or go ahead, Ron.
yeah. Hello.
Oh yeah, just let me give my
Yes.
quick take on the on what I think Tigres should have done or shouldn't have done. I agree with saying sort of to an extent, like if they wanted to play only 1 minute, or if they wanted to start play after 1 minute of protest, then that's fine. But you don't go and like sucker punch somebody. Like if they're not playing, how are you gonna feel like scoring a goal when people are just standing around? That doesn't take skill or any type of, yeah. Even though those goals are sort of far away, so they you had to have some type of accuracy, but but like scoring 2 goals and taking cheap shots on that, that's sort of messed up, and you can't be happy about that. And I think Gignac
What's the
just shows his
background? It sounds
pride.
like
That's Ron's background, man. I think
What's that?
you got something in the background or something. Um, but yeah, like you can't be proud of scoring, that type of goal, and then when you're called out on it, you get all prideful like Gignac and like start insulting. And then when they start clapping in your face sarcastically, then you get all hurt feelings and everything. So I think Tigres does deserve what the criticism they have, but I guess there also is a rule because at the beginning of the Cruz Azul Morelia game, they did the same thing. No, neither of the teams played, but the ref sort of went to the players and said, "Hey, you only have 1 minute." And I think on Picante they talked about the rule. I don't remember exactly what it stated, but there is a rule where the ref has the right to stop the game if the players not are doing something to that extent, like not playing.
Well, here's my take is this, and if there's the one thing that's evident, especially in Veracruz and especially at the Pirata Fuente Stadium, is you have to you have to defend yourself at all times because you can get a cheap shot thrown at you from anywhere from a window like Faitelson, you know. Uh, that's Pirata Fuente for you right there, dude.
Someone
You
peeking out a
know.
window.
Yeah. Did you guys see Faitelson return to the site of where he got hit by Cuauhtemoc?
to the scene of the crime. I
To
saw
the
a
scene.
picture.
What's that?
I saw a picture, but I didn't know it was recent.
Yeah, he was over there. I didn't see pictures of. I just saw that one picture I tweeted of like a fan, I guess, took a picture with him, and
Yeah,
like
that's the one I saw.
Yeah.
he had his fist like ready to.
No, but yeah, you're right. Look, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. They waste more time than that and stop in injuries or fake injuries or arguing with the ref and stuff like that. So I understand that Tigres has they have you know their responsibilities and they have to do what they need to do in terms of winning the game. But it's like I thought the captain's response and at the presser last night was just pathetic. Whether it's 1 minute or 2 minutes, what's another 2 minutes of showing solidarity? It didn't cost them anything, and I just thought that was just pathetic. I just thought that was a very pathetic and and stuff like that. And like he's saying, like, hey, don't blame us for the situation. And no one is. And no one is blaming them for the situation that Veracruz is in. That's not the issue. That was not the issue. And that is not the criticism. The criticism is that they should have, shown solidarity with their other colleagues, the other soccer players in the league. Because, like I, today it's Veracruz. Tomorrow it could be Tijuana or it could be Santos. Well, Santos was in that boat, not too long ago, too, after Corona, after Grupo, what's the name, Modelo, basically cut the funding. You guys remember that?
I forgot about the Grupo Modelo funding stuff.
Yeah, so it's like these a lot of it's like Grupo Modelo, Pachuca, what's the name, Tigres and stuff like that. Going back from the '90s and even sometimes in the 2000s, some of these clubs were also struggling, with their administration and their finances and stuff like that.
They were around, but the amount of time that the players in Veracruz have gone without money is just too much. I
Well, yeah,
think
true.
that's where Cudi has
Cody is
already
saying,
overstepped his boundaries there at this.
Cody is saying that he only owes August and September, right? Which sucks. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but then you have Salcido saying, saying that 6-7 months. So what is it? Which is it?
I don't believe Cudi.
Well,
I'll be
hey,
honest, I don't
hey,
believe him.
I mean, do you remember Salcido on Football Picante a couple months back?
Yeah,
He sure seemed very, protective of Cudi.
he was. He was, yeah.
You know, so maybe Salcido, obviously
I,
can't side.
I don't trust Salcido either. He's always been one of the guys that he looks out for himself. He he pretty much he was the one involved when Vela got suspended.
Yeah,
He
I know, but
never spoke out against that, even though he was at that party. As
okay,
and then at Chivas too, he did the same when he knew he had to leave and he leaves throwing cheap shots at Cardoxo.
yeah,
So he kind of gives me that type of personality where he's
no, but
mostly looking out for himself.
when was that interview in Football Picante when he was, kind of protecting Cudi and it was
That's
trying to, like,
Yeah.
this
Well,
was,
you know what? Also, but also to add to that, because he was also blamed for the JJ Macias
uh
for
huh.
getting him out of the team, and he denied that. He was saying that he said the opposite.
Yeah, I know. But but like my point is this: it's like who's
It was
telling
like
the
a
truth?
month or two ago, maybe.
Yeah, before the league started. I mean, before the league started, that's he was on Picante and stuff like that, and he was like trying to being dismissive of Faelkes, David Faelkesen and the other people is their questions about about the finances, about the administration, about the stuff like that. So now granted, what I'm saying is like who's telling the truth? Is it Guri? Is he saying that hey I only owe September, August and September, or is it the player Salcido saying no, it's 7 months.
I,
I all I know is that one's Salcido saying one thing, Udi's saying another, and stuff like that. I don't know who's telling the truth. I mean, I know that hey, you know, Gudi ultimately has to pay, and he knows that. But
yeah.
like I
Well,
said,
Ron, I think for the players to do something as drastic, like start making it a big noise. Uh,
yeah,
I do feel it's been more than 2 months,
you do.
and yeah, I think it's been more than 2 months there. But I want to mention something else, and that's where's the players' union?
Now, well, question. How much do you think the fact that they're undefeated and they're going on a record, obviously, you know, this what do you
Yeah,
call
that
it?
too.
Obviously
Distraction.
that's putting a lot of pressure on the players and stuff like that, and obviously, a lot of them, are frustrated, and rightly so, and they're well within their rights to be frustrated and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But like I said, there's the player side, there's the ownership side, and then there's the actual truth. And I said, I would like to, get more clarification. One, on the debts that apparently, the disownership, incurred from previous, ownership groups, and see, it goes, are those legit debts? Are they legitimate? Whose were they? And stuff like that. It's, I mean, shit. I mean, in this country, like, when someone says, hey, you owe something, you have to verify, you know what I mean? That it's your debt and your responsibility to pay it. So that's kind of like that's point for me. That's point number one. Is it true? And if it's true, how much and why did it go 14 years? Because Cootie took over and when in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, around that time
So
they
yeah,
want and they want.
so yeah, I'd like to know that, and then obviously, in terms of the players, I also want, who's actually, you know, is it the 2 months or is it the 6, 7 months? Because I know that makes a difference. Not getting paid in almost half a year sucks.
Yeah, but and the players union round,
Yeah,
we had Rafa Marquez. He was a big promoter of that.
yeah.
And now, where is he? What happened?
Well, yeah,
This is where we need you, man. And
I know.
he just left a bad signal. He left a red phone, and he's not
But
answering it. He's not answering the call.
here's
This
here's
thing
my
where
here's my beef. This little miscommunication between Tigres and Veracruz should have never even happened. You know why? Because Alvaro Ortiz, the president of the Players Association, should have been the one to contact, the Tigres front, the player representing Tigres, and say, hey, Pachu, what do you call it? Veracruz is going to do this. You guys better get in line, rank and file. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
even
See,
even
there's
from from my and keep in mind, this, Jorge, I've always been against the players union because I've always think that they should, and I say this because I think that the unions, like for example the athletes unions here in the U.S. and stuff like that, have become too strong, and it's like they have their own motives, the players have their own, agendas, and then obviously the ownerships have their own agendas. So I've always been fearful of the agendas that the sports, players unions can get, and especially, over there in South America, they would, they would, you know hold up the league or do this or do that for just even the smallest minor offense. So
yeah. Well,
because
hold up the league. You said it there, Ron. That's what they should have done. Didn't that happen with the arbitros when they you know? And I think it was involving Curi, and that's
yeah,
that's when they the referee said they weren't gonna. They put a stop.
now here's the thing though, you know if Cudi is telling the truth and saying that, hey, I'm having to pay debts that didn't pertain to me, and it's like at this point you're thinking the league, you know what, pay your players first, come to me later, or even just forget the debt, you know because it's like, you really think the league needs that, you know
Yeah, it's made the whole league look bad, including Bonilla, the league
yeah,
president.
Worldwide,
it
man.
has.
Like
It's
I'm reading an article on Deadspin about it.
what's that?
I'm reading an article on Deadspin about it. So it's making the rounds worldwide.
Uh-huh. But I think the conversation that no one's having, that needs to have, that needs to, get, people need to have about this whole issue, is not whether Foodie or that administration has problems with the finances or stuff like that. I think the real conversation here, and what should come from this, is that I think it's time that that there should be revenue sharing, and that the contracts and stuff like that, the TV contracts have to change in Mexico. I think for far too long, I think the different ownerships have been short-sighted in this, and it's like, I think in that terms, I think they need to look more towards, like, for example, the NFL, or these other leagues here in the U.S. and stuff like that, in terms of the TV contracts and the revenue sharing. Because if you had that, we wouldn't even have this conversation today. Or at least I shouldn't say that. I should say that the probability of having this conversation probably wouldn't be having it and stuff like that. Because I mean, these the 18 team or 19 team, whatever. It's like at the end of the day, they all need to help each other out. You know, yeah. I mean, it's like you can't have a grupo CantinaMX, you can't have a grupo FENSA,
Well,
grupo
yeah.
Tele.
Well, I mean, it's something we talked about, Ron. And this is why the league should be less teams. Can't have clubs like Jaguares, Veracruz, Lobos, Buap. They can't even afford to be in first division. They don't have the finances, the resources, none of the above. They're just hoping to make some money
But
off
here's the
of
thing.
like
Here's the thing. I mean, you see what MLS tries to do with their different the markets that they want to grow. It's like it's like, yeah, please come. They want these different new ownership to come and they try to come together and they say, okay, look, you need to come with this, you need to come with this, you need to come with this, we'll be out with this and this. Do you really see that? Do you really see that in Liga MX? You don't. And
no.
and they should. I mean, it's in their interest it's in that Liga MX interest to develop and to basically try to develop every market, whether it's a baseball market or not. They just it's like you can't treat these outside ownership groups and stuff like that. And basically make it tougher for them. We understand that there's factions within Liga. That stuff has to end.
Your audio's
And I
going.
and I and I said Canisa and stuff like that. The days of Lisa always having games and stuff like that. That should come to an end. They need to. I think they need to start working with this collectively and look out for the interest, not just of the team. They need to look out for the overall interest of the entire league. And I think that I don't think they're doing that. Maybe to an extent, but ultimately, where it really, really matters, that's how you're going to grow the league and make sure that it's healthy and stuff. By making sure that all, not just a couple, but all teams have proper financing. The books are good. The revenues are split amongst the first division teams, and also helping out grow every market. Try to really foment the markets. But like I also think that there's we're going to see soon. I think is you're going to have foreign ownership. I think that's also going to be one of the ways to remedy the situation of making sure that you have stronger, healthier franchise maxes through foreign ownership groups. More likely, so they're probably going to come from the U.S.
Well, that's where like the league's cup comes in,
Yep.
and this connection with MLS, just something we've talked about. We've been talking about for a while right here, and I know a lot of Liga MX fans don't like it, but it's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
When you have a team like Veracruz and they're employing players like Salcido, with all due respect, but he's not at that level anymore, and a few others. It's the team that doesn't offer much, and is going on to almost the 40. They're close to hitting the 40 game mark, which is like it's going to be a worldwide record, I think. Because I think the most games, at least in Latin America, South America, was about 38 games winless streak, and Veracruz about to hit that big 40 mark. if they didn't already. So I mean, when you have the league, when you have teams from the league here investing massive amounts of money and building pretty exciting teams, I know it's not a lot of them. Like of all the MLS, you could probably single out 4 clubs. But if you're doing like a leagues cup or like a mixed cup, you don't need that many teams. You could just, those 4 or 5 teams can make a difference.
Yeah.
It's not just incompetence on Cody's part though, man. It's the league's part. It's the league. Like Bonilla made a fool out of himself. Also, the league's making a fool out of themselves. They need to be better, like hands on their clubs and make sure that everything's getting done. Cody's main one of the main mistakes he made was blaming and feeling sorry for the fans because of the players not playing. And he was on that interview blaming the players instead of himself. The players wouldn't have protested if they or made a fool. He even said they made a fool out of themselves, or they made them they were ridiculous out there. But the only reason why they did that protest and they got 2 goals scored on them were because they're not getting paid, and that goes back to Cootie. So the whole root of the
Now,
problem is Cootie and not
now,
paying the players.
question,
And then you can
question.
go deeper to that. You can go deeper to that and say that the league and Bonilla, they aren't verifying their teams are properly financed and doing everything correctly.
For you, what's more embarrassing? What's going on in Veracruz, team that is a bottom feeding, they're a bottom feeder, or what's going on with Cruz Azul? For me, what makes the league look more amateurish and bush league is what's going on with Cruz Azul and their ownership
Well,
than what's going on, with
yeah.
Veracruz.
Well, Cruz Azul, because they aired the dirty laundry. You know,
Yeah,
it was just dumb to do that.
and then Bonilla's like, well, we don't recognize. We're gonna let them handle it and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I know that you maybe probably don't want to pick sides. You pick the wrong horse. It could come back and bite you in the end. But
Yeah,
like Shiki said, it's like Beto said, it's like you need to vet your organizations, your clubs a little better. Who's the actual, who owns the club? Who are the board members and stuff like that?
well, I mean, if that happened, Ron, half the clubs would disappear. Uh, because it is. Uh, in Mexico, the clubs are used for laundering money or for, you
Well,
know, in different.
the different ownership, like the different ownership groups that off the top of my head that I can remember, Leon, Querétaro, what do you call it? Leon, Querétaro, Santos at one point, um, Puebla, and stuff like that, and now, not well, those were actual ownership, like different ownership groups. Now, in terms of different board members, like within the same company, right now, Cruz Azul and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't think it's a situation that plagues the entire league and stuff like that. It usually affects the more bottom teams and that, but Cruz Azul to be in to be in that sort of scandal, I think that's what really damages the damage of the league a lot more than what's going on with Cody. Again, they're a bottom feeding team. You don't expect much from them, and it's unfortunate because I mean they are a historic team, and they don't deserve their fan base they don't deserve that type of those type of humiliations and stuff like that. But this with the thing with Veracruz goes back decades. It's changed ownerships different times, different owners, the state, this, that, and the other. But again, uh, that's to be expected from a team that uh, doesn't have the financial resources of like a Cruz Azul or an America or right now Tigres and stuff like that.
The only difference though is the news has gone international for the Veracruz part. The only people that really know about Cruz Azul and their drama is like people that listen to Picante and see that dude Garces on, looking a fool. So it's pretty much
No,
just the Mexican press and or the Mexican fans and then the fans in the U.S. But this
Well, and yo, I'm
Veracruz
gonna tell
stuff
you
is
something, Tikis. And it's a lot of stuff like this has been going on for so many years in Liga MX that it just like nobody really cared or put more attention. The big difference now is social media,
uh-huh.
and people use this to make memes, and then the memes bring more attention to it, and that's I would say is the difference why a lot of these things are becoming uh, more international because if you could dig back to Liga MX, oh, you'll find a lot of stuff like this or worse that's gone on. This is a new, just like Ron said with Cruz Azul, that's been going on for years with Garces putting a lawsuit on Billy Alvarez and stuff like even Chivas like got swept under the rug with the way the team got taken over by Vergara and some of the former socios, trying to keep the name, trying to keep the club because they didn't sell their stock.
But yeah, and like for example, you have that with Cody. Obviously, he spoke against his players, but let's not pretend that this is not the first time an ownership speaks against their players. Cruz Azul did it. Remember when they rescinded the contracts of basically all their,
Los extranjeros,
yeah, most of all their extranjeros and stuff like that. And if I recall correctly, I think it was Loco Abreu or
yes,
no, I think it was Loco Abreu or whatever. Basically called out fucking Conejo Perez because he basically called him, he didn't want to risk anything and stand in solidarity with with the rest of his teammates and stuff like that. And Sergio Almaguer at the time, he says, you know what, fuck this, I'm standing with the rest of my other my teammates and stuff like that. But not so anyhow, Cruz Azul has done it. What was it last? Was it? You should know this,
well,
Beto. Last was it last season or the season before when Pumas their board member, what do you call it, said jugadores de verdad, or he said something along those lines. You remember that?
I
Hello?
don't think Beto.
no.
Well, I do know what happened with Chivas with the they
What's that?
hadn't paid them their bonus money at Chivas, and then you had Mati fronting the extra cash.
Yeah. But you know what? This I think what's his name? Atlantis. One of their owner or what's his name? Shit. It's not the. Forget his name. It's the one that. Oh, I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But it was one of the guys from Atlante. Basically, once said that everybody thinks that owning a soccer team is easy, and you have all these investors come in and stuff like that, but a whole different animal, as to owning a business. And I think it's true because you see all these new ownerships, or investors come and go, and at that point you kind of have to respect the ones that have been able to do it for a long time, because I don't think it's just a question of having a lot of money.
Yeah, there's an element of corruption and bureaucracy. Like if you go down to Mexico, you guys have probably experienced if you try to do some kind of like get a driver's license or do some type of paperwork. Man, you could run around in circles taking care of business like that in Mexico. So
No,
like,
That is, yeah.
it's a completely different animal. I mean, it's like I said, the guy is like he's right. It's not just about having money. It's about basically having an entire framework, an entire system around you that's conducive to in ensuring that you're able to operate and maintain what stay competitive amongst all things, you know take it, but also the operation of the institution, and I just think that's I think that's where the league could improve is basically trying to work with with the clubs, and I think this is where I think this is where in an ideal world it would be nice to have like the league and the federation, in theory, completely separate from one another, where it's not the same players, it's not the same individuals, where you have a group of players, a group like the actual federation that controls, the league, where they are not associated in any way, with the clubs, and in no way can they lose their jobs because, certain or X ownership group doesn't like X person working within the federation, where because like right now the way it is like the 18 teams the teams they choose who really works at the at the federation, but it's like you at this point it's like you need that independent autonomous organization that is looking out not just for one team or one faction of teams that collectively are working against the other, but looking at the big picture. And I think League MX needs that. I don't see it ever happening because obviously, the owners they have their financial interests, But
Well, I
I,
think Bonilla hinted at it, but him mentioning it to it happening is, you know,
De dichacho hay mucho trecho.
what
and it's
happened,
funny,
Chiquis?
and it's funny because prior to 1970, dude, the amateur sector controlled. They had 70% of the voting power within the league within Mexican soccer. You know, Prior to the World Cup in 1970, and then after that, the owner said, "F you, my money." You know, Kind of reminds me of that scene from the Three Amigos where Lucky goes, "No dough, no show."
I thought you were gonna say a plethora of sweaters.
Sweater. No, it's
El
like
guapo.
so. Yeah, I mean that's really when the money started to change the game in Mexico. You know, but gentlemen, like I said, it's not that I'm pretending. I'm not or defending Cudi and stuff like that. I just think there's always more to the story. And I don't think he's the true villain here. I think there's a lot of things in motion, and and ultimately, I think the league needs to do better in vetting their board members and vetting the organizations better and stuff like that. I mean, time and time they say, time and time, they say that it's going to happen, that or that they're doing it, like after Colibri, that whole Colibri, scandal. Oh no, we're setting up uh, a committee, and we're going to verify that every team is solvent and liquid and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, and then you realize, okay, well, Atas is not, and Morelia is not, and Veracruz is not, and stuff like that. So I think they just need to be, be be consistent with it, not just not just address it when there's an issue, but what's when there's not an issue, maintain it, because at the end of the day, it makes the league look amateurish and second rate.
Agree. Well, I guess continuing on, if you guys don't have any other input on this whole Veracruz drama, we can talk a little bit about the
Just my
league.
last, just my last thing on players union and how I knew it was just smoke and mirrors, especially seeing Marquez, um, at the forefront, and now he's disappeared, you know,
Yeah.
and even other players have stayed quiet of the known like seleccionados, top guys, and that's when these things don't have that much sway, that much power.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it would have been nice to for Veracruz to actually not even or state that they weren't going to play. But so I guess continuing on, we can go over a little bit this weekend of Liga MX. I might have to jet out here in a little bit, but Pachuca's tied with Juarez currently. And then the Huilas are playing in Necaxa in a little bit. I'm sure Ron is getting ready for
And
that.
Cruz Azul lost, and it was a big defeat for them,
Yeah.
coming off of their big win. And I think they are still out of Liguilla
Mhm.
zone, and it was, oh man, the portero, he was really dumb from Corona. He pretty much gave that one goal, and they lost 3-2 at home. I still think they have a chance, but it's been complicated for them.
Hey boys, I got a jet. I gotta get ready.
Oh, all right, Ron.
All right, man. Sharpen the knife.
Yep,
Perfect.
Shervin.
Careful
I
with the
gotta go.
sheetrock.
I gotta go pick up my elotes. You know,
Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
esquites. You're gonna get some
No,
esquites.
Tapico gets no love. It's totally okay.
Yeah. All right,
All
man.
right, later, guys.
Enjoy later. Yeah, that's a tough loss, man. I think they're done though. I think that sunk them a little bit, but we'll see
Yeah,
if Cruz
and
Azul can bounce back.
Santos, Chiquis, I gotta admit, I was way off on Santos. They continue to win. I predicted some doom and gloom for them. I said they're not as strong as before,
Hmm.
and but they're playing way better. So you know, I have to admit when I'm wrong, and this one I'm way wrong. Uh, I don't even want to say my second part. That was, once they get to Liguilla, they're gonna crash. Just cause I've already, you know, I don't want to look more bad.
Yeah. Well, I think they had a sort of a
Yeah.
they didn't have a really tough
No, they're kind of,
opponent
yeah,
in
but
Cholos,
you
but
still
still.
gotta you still gotta get the results.
Yeah.
Um, and they've been winning convincingly. That's the other part.
Yeah, so they're at the top, and Necaxa is at the top. So between them and Necaxa this weekend, we should see who will take the first place spot at the end of this game with America. Another thing, I guess, coming up on Sunday is Chivas, your beloved Chivas will be playing Monterrey, and we had a quote from Briseño, no, not Briseño, who is it? Brizuela said that he was willing to stand in unity with Veracruz and not even play the game. I think he brought in his teammates as well in that statement. So that should be interesting what comes about that. I think I didn't get to see the beginning of this Pachuca game, but I assume the first minute of their game they didn't play. Uh, but that was interesting seeing Brizuela from Chivas say he was willing to
Say what,
that he was willing not to play
Chiquis?
that he was willing not to play on Sunday.
Not to. Yeah, well, what's it that Chivas saying? They're gonna Chivas in solidarity with Veracruz is not gonna play Liguilla.
No, this upcoming game. That was a
Huh?
meme. That was a meme though. That's different. That's a different thing.
That would have been good if you would have said that, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And Chivas could just go along with that. Chivas could just go along with that. The league would applaud them. It wouldn't look like a fracaso. Because I think they're going on to 5. I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5 because I'm trying to block the pain, Chiquis. But it might be the fourth or the fifth consecutive season without playoffs for the Goats.
Yeah, that's tough. Um, yeah, they're down there. They're down there third from last in the league table, and they're playing a tough game against Monterrey up in the north.
Yeah, the Monterrey game's going to be interesting. Uh, both teams had the FIFA break to work because they both have, their new entrenadores. Turco returning to Monterrey, and so we'll see how he's able to light a fire with the Rayados. And then we have, let's see what Tena could do with Chivas. He's had 2 friendly games. He's had enough time now to to polish up and shake up that defeat they had uh, in the Clásico. So let's see what happens. But for Chivas, so they have 6 games left in the season. They have to win five, Chiquis.
Hmm.
They have to win five. So I don't know. I don't know. It's not impossible, but it's the odds are against them.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. They do have a couple of games that should be pretty easy, but then the
Yeah,
rest, yeah,
yeah.
that's it's
But
gonna be
but
hard to
five
see.
in a row, it's difficult to see five straight wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, correct.
Uh, so I mean, or they would have to beat like Rayados and then tie their next game, and then 4 straight wins. But difficult task nonetheless, Chiquis.
Yeah, they're 7
Very
points behind.
quite difficult.
They're 7 points behind the eighth place team. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be very hard. And for Cruz Azul as well. I'm gonna go ahead and call Cruz Azul is done.
You
Chivas is
think that
probably
they're cooked?
Chivas is
Let
probably done
let's
based on their schedule.
well,
Based on the schedule that
who
comes
do they have?
for Cruz Azul,
Who does Cruz?
they have Tigres in the Universitario next
Okay,
week. Then Leon
okay,
at home.
Tigres.
Then
Oh
Santos
man,
away at,
ouch,
and then finally they got San Luis.
ouch. That is, yeah. Goddamn, the elimination chamber. It's hell in the cell for them. Oh man, tables, ladders, and chairs. It's yeah. Oh man, dude. If and a lot of this big shakeup had to do with the whole turmoil going on at Cruz Azul and Pelaez leaving. You know, this whole drastic change, and man, I feel bad for Siboldi. Very good coach, and keeps going into the wrong. He keeps going into the wrong situations. Uh, he should have never taken that job of Veracruz, and he shouldn't have come into Cruz Azul just the way it was. Have you seen this commercial with it's like it's for car insurance, and they're kind of making fun of the scary movies, and you see a group of teenagers and they're running away, and then they're like, "Where should we go?" And then there's like a car,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Let's just get in that car and drive away." And then one of the guys says, "No, you're crazy. Let's hide behind those chainsaws." And they couldn't. Yeah, we started with the scary movies. You always have that where
They make wrong decisions.
they're running away, and instead of like keep running, they'll go and hide somewhere where it's like you basically made it easier because you're kind of trapping yourself inside. Uh, and then just really quick, there was a pretty brilliant commercial on that. It was a Nike commercial, and this girl's being chased in the woods. Well, you see her running, and you see like she's getting chased, and there's like this Jason guy with like and I don't know if he has a chainsaw. So he's like a mix of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Jason. And so, anyways, he's like running behind her, but then she just keeps running, and then you just see him tired. He gets tired of like running behind her holding the chainsaw. He stops to catch a breath, and then the girl you just hear she just keeps going. That was pretty brilliant. But that's Sivaldi in a nutshell, man. He's hiding behind the chainsaws again, and it's like, no, that's that's too bad. I do think he's a really good coach, um, or has the makings of one, just from what we saw, and that result against America, he did what so many coaches hadn't been able to do. That's um. So yeah, yeah. It's tonight they went up against Ferreira, who just had one of those nights, ended up scoring the hat trick, and the big blunder by Corona, who then kind of made up for it because he stopped the penalty. But you know what I'm gonna say? As far as like the whole Cruz Azul thing, that Garces, I think he changed the contracts from the players because Pelaez had set it up where he was going to give them some bonus for making X points and bonus for like qualifying to Liguilla and finishing in next place. And Garces went and said, "There's no bonus until till you win a championship or something like that."
Oh wow.
So yeah, that Garces dude is bad news, man. He
Yeah.
went in thinking, yeah, I know what's right, and he kicked off the dude that in his first season, that being Pelaez, managing the club, took him to a final, and now his team's falling apart again. So, and then the road that you paint for them, Chiquis, that's a very tough, difficult road. But if they get through to that, if they manage to qualify, facing those rivals, then that's one team to look out for in the playoffs.
Yeah. All right. So I guess finally, Pumas is playing Leon. They're just outside of Liguilla, and then San Luis is playing Querétaro on Sunday as well. So we'll have to see what goes on there. Querétaro is up top at the fourth spot. So yeah, Pachuca and Juarez are still tied. So I guess that's we can wrap it up. If there's anything else you have or
No sir, no sir. That's it for now. Um, Crazy shenanigans going all over Liga MX.
yeah,
Let's see what comes out of that. Definitely, once we have Yon back, we'll have more talking points and his take. But yeah, a lot of craziness. Just the last thing, since we did talk about Pelaez leaving Cruz Azul, he was spotted in Guadalajara. He landed, you know, there was a, there was a meeting with Amauri, who's the president, and we're not going to know. We're not going to know because it's the league rule. So if you were employed, player, coach in any way, shape, or form to a club, you can't sign to another club until the end of the season or
uh,
until the next season. So he can't. They can't say, "Oh yeah, we hired him." They they would have to wait until the season ends to make it official. But the rumors are that it's very likely that it's going to be Pelaez. If not, it could be the return of Nestor Nestor de la Torre.
I
I
don't
know
like.
a lot of Chi hermanos don't like him. I would say a lot of recent Chi hermanos, because those that's been following the team long enough, they will know that he's been the for the position he had. Even just as an employee in the Vergara era, he's been there the longest. He was there 6 years. In the 6 years he was there, the team was very competitive. Always in Liguilla and just they would win and whatnot. Not none of this turmoil. So I know Pelaez is he's he's the flavor of the month, but
I wouldn't
Nestor
mind
is
seeing.
someone that knows what he's doing too.
I wouldn't mind seeing Pelaez over there. That would be good. Just seems.
It would be good, and but and I have to agree. There's one guy from ESPN said it's a bad move on your part, and he's getting a lot of hate. But part of me has to agree with that because Chivas has a long history of just firing firing their GMs or their vice presidents and whatnot. And there's a long list. Again, Nestor is the only one that's been able to stay 6 years. The majority, they end up leaving or getting sacked at like the 2 year mark.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And there's been big names there from Kreutz to Lebrija. Lebrija, of course, was the architect of the Toluca with Cardoso that was very dominant, you know, at one point. So I mean, he's Chivas, man. Chivas don't care. They'll get rid of you. Just Vergara all of a sudden wakes up and he gets a brilliant idea. He'll sack you, man.
I
So
think
we'll see.
you need to pick and choose your opportunities, like what you were saying with Siboldi. You can't just go and dive
It's
in.
good.
You can't go
He's
and
gonna
dive in
go
and
run.
stuff.
Yeah.
Pelais has to put in his conditions, and if they don't
Well, he is.
comply, then
He is
just jet
putting
on
them.
out of there. And if they do comply, where he's gonna, he has his conditions to set him up for success, then take
What?
it. But if not, then you got to get
But
out of
that
there.
what? No, you're right, Chiquis. But that's the thing as well. Because these you don't even like. Cause Cruyff was there. Remember Johan Cruyff?
Yeah.
And yeah, they charge a lot of money. So if you sack him, if you don't let them complete it, they get a big payday. And that's the thing with Chivas where they've lost a lot of money.
Well,
They'll
I don't.
just start,
Yeah. Yeah.
sacking people. Like the word is that they're still paying Matias. He's still getting monthly checks. You know,
Yeah, and I'm not
from
talking about just the money though. I'm talking about like like if you're supposed to control things, like how
yeah.
is with Cruz Azul, how are they gonna sack that dude and bring in some other guy without Pelais knowing? And then Garces is saying like it's not his job, like it's our job to do stuff, and it's not his job
Oh,
to know.
well,
Like he's
that's
all full of
because
it.
yeah, no, that's because Garces and I think it was Alfredo, because there's two Alvarez, Billy
Yeah.
and those guys weren't like involved. And then because of things happening with the cooperativa, so the cooperativa is like I guess is what runs the Cemento Azul, the main business. So and then they're the ones that started the club. So that's why they're connected. So there's some shenanigans going on with the cooperativa, and then they just decided to. They had been leaving the club alone, but I think shit got real. So then they went and it's like, okay, well we're gonna start messing with the club too, and so you got all this stuff going on. But it's a giant mess, man. It's, it's
Yeah.
so much stuff going on. So the other thing, because of Pelaez, supposedly Monterrey is also interested in him, and they already have the coach he wanted for Cruz Azul, that being Turco.
Hmm.
And I do think at a club like Monterrey, he would have. I just think it's easy, man. He would have a better time of doing what he needs to do.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens over there with Pelais,
Yeah,
Chivas. Uh, well, hopefully everything gets worked out with Veracruz and their players, and they get some money. I believe I heard some other players had to like move out of there. They got like evicted or something. They had to move out of their apartments
yeah.
because they didn't have money. That's some messed up rumors for a professional
They
soccer player.
they had their plush apartments, chickies.
Yeah,
Maybe they were living in fancy five-star
yeah,
hotels.
missing a
Now they're
rent.
at the Motel 5 where you gotta go get ice.
Like
The
the
ice is on the side in the
the
in the máquina.
the landlord's
You gotta
like
get a
knocking at the
bucket.
door. Where's your rent?
They're hiding. Sleeping in the bathroom like happiness. Or what was that movie with Will Smith?
uh,
Pursuit of Happiness?
yeah,
And he locks himself in the bathroom.
I was thinking of Spider
Huh?
Man. I was thinking of Spider Man.
Spider Man. What?
Like
With Will Smith?
the no the no the old Spider Man. The Tobey
The
Maguire Spider
Tobey
Man.
Maguire Spider
When the guy
Man?
was like rent, the rent.
Oh, yeah. Ouch. Ouch. But you know what? It's a bit exaggerated. These guys have money. They're making it seem like they're living paycheck to paycheck. These guys have money, man. If if they squandered it on fancy cars and women, booze, and drugs, then that's something else.
Yeah,
But these players shouldn't be in a position where it's like, oh, I just got kicked out because my check didn't clear. It's exaggerated. I don't buy it for the first division players. A lot of those guys are pretty set. A couple of them, I know. Angel Reina is.
yeah,
He got a lot of money in Chivas. Guy was getting paid about 2 million a season, and Chivas was trying to get rid of him, and no one would take him. High salary. So I'm like, really, this guy? I don't think this guy is getting kicked out on the curb. But for like the youth players, then yeah, those guys are having a tough time out of it. But that's the case with a lot of them in Mexico. A lot of the youth players, youth teams, they don't get that much money, and it's
Yeah,
just so many. It's hundreds of them. You don't really, you don't really get the money until you make it like to the first team. You know,
yeah,
so you have to be a dude that's just starting. Like it's like your first year.
yeah. He mentioned the U17s, the U20s, and I guess
Yeah, those guys. Yeah.
Salcido mentioned
No,
the
but
feminine has
oh,
lacking some stuff.
yeah, femenil as well. Yeah, the femenil. That one is. Yeah, that one I will. But that one, yeah, they're the ones suffering. With the understanding on 20, that is messed up. Yeah, they don't get that much money, but a lot of those guys aren't gonna make it.
Yeah,
It's just so difficult. There's hundreds and hundreds. You're never gonna hear a lot of those players. Some of them might end up getting 1 or 2 games, and then you never see them again.
all right. Well, thanks for coming on, Juan, discussing all the
Oh,
drama.
gracias.
And
Yes.
yeah, this has been episode 220. Yeah, like you mentioned, hopefully next week we can get some more panelists, John on, Jaime, and the rest of the guys to discuss more of what's going on. Uh, we still have some more games over this weekend to see if the solidarity continues. And thanks everyone for listening. We had a few Cuauhtemoc Bedoya on the chat. Shout out to him and some other viewers that were listening. We will see you guys next time. This has been episode 220 of the Cantina MX podcast. You guys have a good evening.